This is absolutely unacceptable. It was said by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. In relation to Russia's continued aggression in Ukraine yesterday, 28 civilians were killed in Kiev. Our journalists saw how a Russian missile destroyed an entire city block. How do those positions reconcile themselves? Do you have any plans to meet President Trump or maybe to have a telephone conversation with him?
As for our actions in Ukraine, I have just told your colleague from Turkey in sufficient detail, answering his question. Therefore, I think it would be pointless to repeat it. We believe that we did not start military actions in Ukraine, but we are trying to end them. The current Ukrainian leadership started the war on its own territory after the coup that took place in Kiev, using armed forces against the peaceful population of the southeast, then the southeast of Ukraine, against Donbass, Lugansk, and Donetsk, including heavy equipment and aviation. They attacked the residential areas. For some reason, no one wants to remember this today, but it was this policy that led to the current armed conflict between Russia and Ukraine. This is the first point. The second point is that if your journalists had seen how our missiles destroyed entire residential areas, they would hardly have been able to say anything to you about it. They would not have survived. If they had seen something, they would have seen it from the outside. The attack was not on residential areas, but on the facilities of the defense and industrial complex, on the factories that produce military equipment. This is what we are doing. We are not keeping any secrets here. One of the goals of the special military operation is to demilitarize Ukraine, that is, to deprive it of its capabilities and to have armed forces that threaten us. To do this, we must either reach an agreement with them, and we agreed on this during the Istanbul agreements in 2020. We also agreed on the size of the armed forces that Ukraine might have. We agreed on the number of armies. We agreed on everything. But then, thanks to the efforts of the Western allies of Ukraine, they threw these agreements into the trash, as I said, and decided to fight us to the last Ukrainian and to a complete strategic victory. This is not possible. Therefore, instead of peaceful agreements, we are forced to achieve this goal with the help of the armed forces, namely demilitarization. We will not allow Ukraine to have armed forces that threaten the Russian Federation and its people. Your journalists have seen these blows. And of course, if we do not reach an agreement peacefully, we will achieve our military goals. Therefore, there is nothing unusual here. I hope that I have answered your questions in this regard. As for the Foreign Ministry's statement, I think it is also clear and very transparent, and it refers to international law. As for our actions in Ukraine and our agreement with international law, I have just told you our logic. From one step to the next, we believe that this completely complies with the UN Charter. As for the Foreign Ministry's assessment, well, this is our Foreign Ministry. Well, you can see for yourself how objective it is in your opinion and what it has in mind. I did not notice anything in your mind. In this regard, I hope I have satisfied you and answered your question. As for possible meetings with Mr. Trump, well, it would certainly be highly useful. I agree with the President of the United States. It should, of course, be prepared and end with some positive results. The track is a good choice. We have spoken on the phone with President Trump several times. We have great respect for his intention to restore relations with Russia in many areas, including security and economic activity. Look, our import to the United States has decreased by 10 times, and by 4.5 times our import from the United States to Russia has decreased. The truth is that it was small. It was $27 billion, and now it has dropped by several dollars. But the truth is that over the past year, the volume of goods in circulation has increased with the United States. It has fallen with many European countries, but it has increased with the United States. Therefore, I hope that Mr. Trump is not only a politician and not only a man whom the American people have entrusted with the fate of their country, he is also a businessman. And I see a big advantage in the fact that he thinks everything through. Since he has become a rich man, he probably thinks it is good. He thinks about what those or other steps will lead to in relation to Russia, how much it will cost taxpayers, how much it will cost the US economy. And we see now the interest of the American business in building relations with Russia. There are already contacts between our large companies that want to return to our place of work. All in all, this instills a certain restraint and optimism. And I hope that both the President of the United States and his immediate circle will see and hear this. And together with business representatives, decisions will be made aimed at restoring Russian-American relations. In addition, we have contacts with Mr. Rubio, the Secretary of State, and Mr. Lentz, the Vice President. In general, gradually, relations are being established, and conditions are being set for restoring relations. We hope that this trend will be maintained. We are ready for this.
Today, the president was supposed to attend the meeting of the representatives of the Iranian news agency, but he could not come because of the war. But you know that, in response to the previous question, there was a direct strike, a deliberate strike on the building of the state TV and radio company in Iran, in Tehran, and a huge number of journalists died in Gaza from the strikes in Israel. Do you have a plan of support for Iran, Mr. Putin? I think that the Iranians have asked this question. Will Russia support Iran? I would like to ask this question on their behalf.
Look, your colleague has just spoken about the statement of the Russian Foreign Ministry on the events between Israel and Iran. Everything is laid out in our position. I have nothing to add. That is all. We are in contact with our Iranian partners on a permanent basis. We had this contact today, and I think we will have it tomorrow and the day after. We continue our relations. This is the first thing. And the second thing, I have already said this, is that our specialists work in Bushehr. There are 250 people, and the total number can reach 600. We have been given the estimates.
Mr. President, I would like to return to my first question. Because we are talking about what is being discussed in German society very actively. Olaf Scholz held a debate on the delivery of the Taurus rocket. When he was Chancellor, and now Chancellor Merz has not yet publicly said what will happen. If Germany were to deliver the Taurus, how would the Russian Federation react to this?
Как бы на это отреагировала Российская Федерация?
I have already spoken about this. I just did not articulate it clearly enough. I apologize for what I said unclearly. In general, we know the background of our relations. We know what happened in the 1940s. We know what happened during the Second World War. And we know how much effort was made by the Soviet Union, the Russian Federation, and Germany to heal the wounds of the past. And we managed to do this in many ways. This applies to East Germany, the German Democratic Republic, but it also applies to Western Germany, the Federal Republic. It is enough to remember what Willy Brandt and his party comrades did. Kohl also did a lot. The Soviet Union opposed the division of Germany. It was not the Soviet Union's initiative to divide Germany after the Second World War. We were against it. And in any case, no one doubts that in the 1990s, it was Russia, the Soviet Union, and Russia who played a decisive role in uniting Germany and breaking the wall. I hope no one in Germany has forgotten this. I would like to underline that our representative of the Russian parliament wrote this in his letter to his colleague, the Federal Republic. Russia has not taken a single step in the entire recent history, I would like to emphasize, which would contradict the interests of the German people and the Federal Republic of Germany. Well, the situation has changed now. I do not want to give estimates of the position of the Federal Republic, which occupies us as a result of the assessments that are given in many Western countries. All right? This is a question of political estimates. When we see German tanks in Ukraine, not even in Ukraine, but in Kursk, for example, there is no doubt that it is Russian. This is, of course, a different story. And what are Tauruses? These are high-precision weapons that Ukrainian servicemen cannot control. They are not able to do this. This is an obvious thing. Everyone knows this. It is impossible to use Tauruses without space reconnaissance. Only Western countries can do this. It is impossible to use Tauruses without German officers. Only German officers can control Tauruses. What does this mean? Does this mean that Bundeswehr servicemen will strike Russian territory with German weapons? What does it mean if the Federal Republic is not drawn into a direct armed conflict with the Russian Federation? This cannot be called otherwise. This is not our choice. We do not want this to happen. But if the leadership of the Federal Republic makes such a choice, all right, we will make use of it. I will not go into details now, but this will certainly cause serious damage to our relations. I say this very gently, but this will not have any impact on the course of hostilities, because the Russian armed forces have a strategic advantage in all areas, in all of them. No matter what anyone says, our troops advance along the entire line of combat contact every day, more or less, but they advance every day. And further advance, even if Tauruses are used, is inevitable. This means that we will destroy our relations with Russia, and there will be no result on the battlefield. In the end, this is the decision of the German leadership, if it has the mandate of the German people to do so. And you know what is going on there, so I mean on the line of combat contact. I hope that, due to political reasons, you cannot tell everything objectively there, but it is clear to everyone. I hope that your employees who work there can see everything. You see, the Ukrainian armed forces are mostly equipped with 47%, and the assault units are less than that. What is next? It is not even a matter of whether weapons are supplied to Western countries or not. This is important, of course, but if the equipment is less than 50%, the armed forces are considered, according to the definition, not capable, not combat capable. Mass and forced mobilization is taking place there. You probably know this. I understand that according to political reasons, we are forced to keep quiet, but I hope you know this yourself. They have agreed to take 18-year-old boys. They plan to recruit Waffen 500. I think they recruited only 1,000, and then 500 people simply scattered. And the number of deserters is increasing. It is just growing very fast. Losses exceed the level of the mobilization. And that is it. What is next? Therefore, we agree, let's sit down and reach an agreement. We proposed the terms of the agreement in Istanbul in 2022. They were much softer than they are now. The situation has changed now. They are what they are now. But according to the same principles in Istanbul, we are ready to make further decisions. They will not reach an agreement. The situation may change even more in the worst direction for them. There is no need to delay. We need to sit down and reach an agreement. You see, I have not come up with anything. Believe me, this is absolutely objective information. Well, the unit has been supplemented by 47%. Well, hello. Will there be Tauruses or not? It is absolutely pointless. Well, think about it. We need to supply this Taurus in order to finally bury Russian-German relations. Details on Istanbul agreements. History of German-Russian relations.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, for agreeing to answer the second question. Earlier you said that Europe and other countries made mistakes in relation to Russia. At the end of this year, you will have been in office as president or prime minister for more than 25 years. When you reflect back, have you made any mistakes?
Who among you, without sin, will be the first to throw a stone at me? Let us finish here. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. President. The new federal chancellor Friedrich Merz recently said that he can imagine the possibility of holding telephone talks with you. Do you think it would be useful? Would you like to have contacts with the new federal chancellor? And do you think that Friedrich Merz could be a more successful mediator between Russia and Ukraine than Donald Trump?
успешным посредником
Thank you very much.
между Россией и Украиной, чем Дональд Трамп. Большое спасибо.
If the federal chancellor wants to make a phone call and talk, I have said this many times, we do not refuse any contacts, and we are always open to it. A year and a half ago, or rather two, I had such conversations with Chancellor Scholz and other European leaders. They had a regular attitude, but at some point, when our European partners decided to strike a strategic blow to the battlefield, they stopped these contacts. They stopped them, but let them renew them. We are open, and I have said this many times. Can Germany make a greater contribution than the United States as a mediator in our talks with Ukraine? I doubt it.